Okay, we're back. We're live. Here it is Wednesday, and of course, Wednesday is Energy Day. It's very important. It's the most important thing that happens on Wednesday. This is Hawaii, the state of clean energy here on Think Tech. And we're taking stock of 2014 this time in a special show about who is in charge and what are we doing. Open-ended question. Mike Hamnett, the co-chair of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, to my left, and to his left, Ray Starling, the director of Hawaii Energy, and both of them are actually co-hosts on Wednesday. So we get the brass. The brass is here.
The gang is all together, right?
Okay, so Mike, what do you talk about?
Well, I mean, I think, and this is something that Ray had suggested. There have been a lot of things in the news lately, hearkening to our attempts to meet our renewable portfolio standards and our energy efficiency standards. And, you know, about 4 years ago, everybody was saying there was no way in heck we could meet our renewable portfolio standards on the island of Oahu without some kind of change in the energy structure for Oahu. And we were getting all the solar and wind on the grid on Oahu, and it was going to become unstable. And everybody was concerned about putting limits on the amount of solar, rooftop solar, and wind we could put on the grid, and that whole thing has been a moving target.
And it's changed.
But before we head into the discussion, why don't we have something akin to a prayer by having the negawatt moment?
That sounds like a good idea.
Oh my God.
Forgot about
The
that.
negawatt moment.
The negawatt moment.
Okay, well, we just happen to be ready for that. Now that we've identified what we're going to talk about in the larger show, let's talk about the negawatt moment with Carol and Carl's right here, right among us, behind the microphone, on the other side of the cameras. Carolyn, welcome to Think Tech and the state of energy. What do you think?
Oh, well, thanks, Jay, and thanks, Ray, for interjecting there. I'm happy to be here. Today I'm going to talk about a new offering we have at Hawaii Energy to help offset the cost of maintaining your solar water heater. So it's called our tune-up rebate. It's $150, and a lot of residents are unaware that your solar water heater actually requires maintenance every 3 to 5 years to keep everything running well and to make it last the 15 years that it's expected to. So we're here to help you. We'll provide $150, and really it's easy to qualify. You just have to be a ratepayer in Hawaii, Honolulu, or Maui County, and your system has to be at least 3 years of age, and our tune-up has to be performed by a Hawaii Energy participating contractor.
But it's a contractor. It's not Carolyn. You don't go out there and actually do it yourself.
No, I don't. But we make sure that the participating contractors perform a checklist of items that will make sure that your system is maintained properly, and check for leaks, check the pump.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about this. So exactly, what does the tune-up involve?
Oh,
when the guy comes out, the contractor, the qualified contractor comes out, what is he actually going to do for my system?
Well, we have quite a few components that with associated actions, but I can give you an idea. First, they're going to check the timer to make sure that it's appropriately set. They're going to check the electric backup, check all the controllers in the circulating pump. They're going to replace the anode rod, and they're going to do a tank and a panel flush, wash the panels, and then check all the temperature and pressure valves. So it's really to make sure that this is performing at optimal performance, and that you're going to get all of the savings that are associated with a solar water heater. So
okay, well, that's an interesting question. But you said every 3 years you should have it tuned up.
3 to 5 years, yeah.
3 to 5 years. But is there some objective way that I can tell it's not working right? I mean, what am I looking for in terms of forgetting about the time itself? What am I looking for in terms of saying, deciding that I need a tune-up?
Well, it's hard to say that there's one visual cue that is going to let you know that your system is not operating properly. If you are not achieving the energy savings on your electric bill, that's a huge sign, because that means your electric backup resistance heater is coming on more often than it needs to. Mm-hmm. But you want to make sure that you're in contact with your contractor that either did the installation, or you contact one of our participating contractors, so you can stay on top of things that you need to be aware of. Every system's different. Every system has different components, and so just being more aware aware of how it operates, you can go to our website. We've got videos about how solar water heaters operate. And then also, just kind of like your car. You don't always know, you can't always see, but you want to be sure that you're performing maintenance like you should.
So when do I need to replace the whole enchilada?
In our systems, we say the program system claimed a system life of at least 15 years, but they can last longer than that for sure. And again, that's something that you would talk to a certified contractor about.
Okay. What would I expect to pay him in total? I mean, I know you'll give me $150 as a rebate, but what in total would I expect to pay him?
Average cost is between $300 to $500 from, again, varying with the type of system and the work that needs to be maintained, need to be done for the standard maintenance. Now, if you have some more extensive repairs, that falls outside of standard maintenance. It could be more, but we see an average price between $300 and $500.
Okay, Mike Hamnett, I'm turning this witness over to you.
When does the program start?
The program started on February 1st and it runs till May 31st or while funding lasts. But we're really hoping to see this program take off, and should we see some great success with it, we would like to continue it through our standard rebates.
And what kind of projections do you have about how many people are going to take advantage of it? Any idea?
Right now we're thinking about 200, but we do have the opportunity to increase that number should we see a real uptake of the incentive and involvement.
And what kind of difference is it going to make in terms of people's savings?
That's a great question. It's going to vary significantly with the state of the system that is in place. We would, with a system that is not functioning, because the pump is not working properly, or you're going to see a more significant amount of savings. With a standard change from an electric water heater to a solar water heater, we see about 2,000 kilowatt hours of savings in the first year or so. So it, I think that if you would see. Probably, I think we're looking at claiming around like 200 kilowatt hours in the first year savings.
Right?
Well, I just wanted to point out one of the things that Caroline mentioned is that we do have some videos on our website that actually take you through the steps that you can do as a homeowner with your solar system that really needs to be checked periodically, more than once every 3 years. And the particular thing I'm talking about is there's a timer on your solar water heater, because you really don't want, when you get up in the morning, you've got a hot shower, you take a hot shower and then you go off to work, and if your system senses that there's cold water in the water heater, and it wants to come on, if the timer's not working right to keep it from coming on, then the element will come on, heat the water up, and then about that time the sun comes up and should be heating your water, but it's already hot. So you've heated it, preheated it.
Not
now
efficient.
the sun is not doing anything to help. And that timer, we've found a lot of times gets off sync. If the power goes off and the timer stops, and then when the power comes back on, depending on when it actually comes back on, it can be way off, and then it's coming on at the wrong time. And so you're not getting any benefit from the solar, because the heating element has already heated it by the time the sun comes up. And so, and depending on what your schedule is, the video will show you how to set the timer to work for your particular family. But in particular, if the power has gone off in your house, if you see everything blinking because the power went off for some period of time, you need to go in there and check the timers right on the side of the tank. Just pop it open and make sure that the timer is set for the right time, and you will start to see savings. And we do periodic checks of the solar water heaters that we know have been installed, and there are times when we see, hey, the thing worked for a couple of months and then all of a sudden it stopped showing any savings. And so we go out, send somebody out, or we call the customer and tell them, hey, can you check to see if your timer's off? And a lot of times that's all it is. The timer has been
And you
thrown
can do
off.
that yourself. Just
And you
open it
can
up
do
and
that.
look. It's a clock, and see if
Exactly.
it's the right time.
That's exactly right.
Excellent.
So-
How do I get my money?
Oh, well, you can visit our website, hawaiienergy.com, and you'll see the banner for the tune-up program, and you can click on that. You can call our 537-5577, our standard number, to get some more information. But the work has to be performed by a participating contractor, so they have the applications. It's pretty
I have
straightforward.
to pay them first.
Yep. So it's a service that you're paying for, and I think beyond just the energy savings, it's really important to remember that this is an investment in the longevity of the system that you have put on your roof to save energy throughout this period of the lifetime. So it's really important to maintain it now so that you can maximize the savings over time, not just immediate savings if something's broken.
Okay, that's Carol and Carl from Hawaii Energy in the Negawatt moment, talking about solar, water, heating, tune-ups. Thank you so much, Carolyn.
Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, Carol.
Carolyn.
Okay, wow. I feel refreshed by that.
Yes.
Yeah, I get your savings. Huh?
Now, okay, so here we are, and we have many issues in our transformation. What are your issues and concerns, Ray?
Well, my biggest concern is that there are so many things going on right now that we really need to maintain the flow and the steady progress. And I really worry about things that can disrupt us continuing on the steady path towards achieving the goals that we have.
What
And,
is that path? Can you take a moment and just tell us what that path? This is out of Alice in Wonderland. What is that path?
Well, the path really is to start bringing all of these ideas and technologies together and form the renewable energy, the energy efficiency, and the utility. All the pieces to the puzzle have to start coming together. We've got a lot of cooks in the kitchen right now. Everybody's got their particular area of interest, but we've got to take everybody's piece and put it together to make something that on the whole benefits all of Hawaii. And so some people have to sort of accept the fact that what they're promoting is just a piece of a bigger puzzle, and it's not the only piece. And
Right.
so you have to manage that whole process, and it's a slow process,
it's complex
deliberative
too,
process,
yeah.
very complex. That's and the path, of course, is to really get us off of dependence on oil. It's at least at the level that we're at, and some would say let's get off of oil altogether. That's going to take a while.
Yeah,
Or
let me
fossil
tell you,
fuels, rather.
Give you my concerns and my sort of concept of this where we are. Okay, we started out, we didn't know how PV would change everything.
Right.
It has changed everything. Who knew? And we didn't even see this emerging till maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and all of a sudden it just it enveloped
Exploded.
everything. Huh?
It really
Exploded. And even to the point where wind is not so important as PV. I'm not sure why that happened. I guess wind is more institutional. You can't put it on your roof, not easily. And so wind has fallen back. At one time it seemed to me that wind was number one, and now it's not number one. And then of course you get this kind of, and this is troublesome, you get this public failure to recognize that you can't put everything you want onto the system because the system can't handle it. And maybe it's a question of credibility.
It is.
But the fact is, if you went out in the street right out here in front of Pioneer Plaza, the center of downtown, what they call, and you ask 10 people in a row, why, can we put everything on the system, just hang it all on there? They would say, yeah, absolutely. I don't know why they don't let us do that.
renewables now.
No. And so, I mean, I think we're in a kind of crunch about that. It's sort of the demands of the installers who don't want to address this issue. You know, they just want to put it all on there and sell installations. You get people who want the installations. Now they realize, you know, a little late, but they realize that, you know, it's a peer thing. You know, it's a lemmings to the sea thing. Let's all do this, even though we're a little late. We're going to catch up with our friends down the block. They want it right now, and you know, and then people are generally confused about how you do that. Then, on top of that, and I know we should talk about this too, is the cable. That's part of the landscape now, because the cable is related to this whole thing about smart grid. And smart grid would be, you know, integrated with storage, and that would be the solution to the problem of hanging it all on the grid. And geothermal is in there somewhere, except geothermal is on the big island, and it's like one step away from, you know, an immediate solution about cable. Ocean energy is off the side. OTEC, sorry guys, it's waiting. It's on the back burner. And you know, let me say that those are the things. I mean, if you had to make a little constellation, it would be PV, it would be some wind, it would be smart grid with storage and cable. Have I missed, and geothermal.
Right.
Have I missed anything? That's the universe we're dealing with, right? And of course, efficiency.
Yeah.
Of course, no, I mean, it's really a major player in that constellation. You can't
exactly right.
discount it at all. So it seems to me, and one last thought is, it seems to me that we're stuck on these things. We haven't seen movement on the cable. Sorry, we haven't seen it. It was the cable came up, you know, even before the Clean Energy Initiative. I mean, well before.
Sure.
And we're still stuck on it.
Well, 10 years ago or more.
was a big
there was-
cable.
Yeah. Big
And we have heard about the smart grid for a long time, but it's kind of been an amorphous description. You know, it's coming soon to a continent near you.
That's right.
But we don't know exactly what it is and what it looks like and how you connect it, what it does for you. It's just a smart grid, whatever that is. Batteries, we know they burn. We know that. And everybody gets mad at everybody else when they burn, but we don't know exactly where you can go and buy a battery that will work. And
But you know, the reason we haven't got answers to all of these complex questions is nobody has done it before. We are the first to try to put all of this together. And the world is kind of watching us
Absolutely.
to see how we do it, because if you can make it work in an island environment, which is the big problem, we don't have any connections with other utilities that can help us if we get into trouble. So we're all on our own, and we've got to make it work on our own. But if we do, if we can pull this off, the world will come to us to look at how you do this.
The
And
world's watching
that's
now.
That's a big deal.
we're in a great place, and you know, we have an exquisite series of possibilities out of this. One of them is to have a break.
Okay.
Okay.
To my left is Mike Hamnett, co-chair of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, and to his left is Ray Starling, director of Hawaii Energy. Both of them are co-hosts of this program. This is Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, which plays every Wednesday, 4 to 5 p.m. Today we're talking about taking stock of 2014 and who is in charge. We'll be right back after this short break. Okay, we're back. We're live. We're at Think Tech Talks here on Wednesday. Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, taking stock of 2014. Who is in charge? Mike Hamnett, he has an answer for that. He's co-chair of Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, and Ray Starling, director of Hawaii Energy. So, Mike, what is your answer to the question, who is in charge?
Nobody's in charge.
There it is.
That's part of the problem. And the thing is that the Public Utilities Commission really makes decisions on a lot of what happens, but they are kind of a receiving. I mean, what comes to them, they respond to that, and there is no grand plan. Hawaiian Electric has got its plans.
Well, we have elements of a plan. We have the what do you call it? The
Integrated Resource Plan.
Integrated Resource Plan, for example, which took 2-3 years to put together, and now it's stuck. It's stuck
and we're not
because
sure
it hasn't been approved for
Right.
public consumption or something, and it's sitting there. There's nothing happening with it. It's a non-event. Sorry.
But the problem
so
is
what
that
other
it's all
plan do
very
we have?
complicated, and it's gotten more complicated.
Yeah.
And it's gotten. I was involved in the original IRP, or one of the original IRPs, and it was a Hawaiian Electric process. Hawaiian Electric was sort of driving the ship, and people had input to it, but it was going to be their plan and their way forward. So they were deciding what future demand was going to be. They were deciding what kind of resources they were going to need to come on the system to meet the demand, and at that time they pretty well controlled everything.
Well, and that worked well for over
a time.
100 years, right?
Correct.
For us, when oil was cheap and we didn't know any better, and we didn't have PV. But now we've got options that didn't exist before, and there are options that you can go to the local hardware store and buy you one and go
Right.
put it on your roof, right?
Well, and
so that changed a lot.
Oh, it did. And it used to be that HECO would, they would put some of the, initially they would put all the generation on themselves, and then we went into the era where independent power producers could come and propose things, go on the system, and HECO would pay avoided costs, which was not a terribly attractive return for investors. And then that all changed. And so we started to have this competitive bidding docket where now they would put out a request for proposals for not just low sulfur fuel oil plant, but they would put out a request for proposal for firm power or for renewable power, and then they would have to take whatever came in the way of proposals and decide on that, and that's a much more complicated.
Oh, and it takes so
process.
long to do. It's like you have to play with the PUC. The PUC has to play with the Hawaiian Electric, and they're talking to each other from different sides of the solar system because it takes so long for the message to get from one to the other, and how many iterations before they actually get it done.
But the big dynamic that has changed is that the power needs are not continuing to grow. I mean,
Right.
in the past, it was really easy. We're going to need a new power plant at some point in the future. At what point do we start looking at that, and so forth and so on? And now, if you look at the usage, it's the sales from HECO or the utilities.
It's you. You're doing this.
Well, I'd like to. Frankly, I would love to take advantage of the fact that slope is going down, and megawatts and efficiency and conservation all play a role in that going down. But there's, at this particular moment, about an equal role is being played by the self-generation by people putting in PV. So, and that's something that the utility can't control too well. I mean, right at this point, the system is becoming saturated here on Oahu, and it will become saturated elsewhere as well, getting to a point where we've never tested the system with this kind of arrangement. And it's kind of like when they certify an airplane to fly at a certain speed and altitude, they say, all right, as long as you stay within the parameters of what we've certified it for, you're fine. We tested it, we know it'll do, but if you want to go beyond that, all bets are off. We have never tested the airplane to do this, and so it's the system,
Well, like you said
the
before,
utility
we're-
system is kind of like
We're
that.
pioneering everything. We're
We're pioneering
reinventing everything right here. hopefully one day the world will beat a path to our door and buy our best practices.
Well-
Hasn't happened just yet, but I mean, I'm looking for that. The question is, though, whether the utility, in our mind's eye, can assert, I mean, to some extent it does already, and assert a leadership and say, look, we got this black box, we're going to put it out there, we're going to advertise it, we're going to talk to you about it, we're going to solve this technical problem, we want, to work with you about that, we're going to solve the problem about the PV and the, Connect agreement and all that. We're going to do that. Now that would be great leadership, wouldn't it?
It would.
Because that's a problem, it hasn't been solved, there's a lot of parties involved. If they could solve that, I would say that'd be great, and it would demonstrate that the utility can be the leader through technology. We like technology. Query, can any of the other people on my list, can I read them to you?
Go ahead. Sure.
Step up and do that kind of thing. Or maybe there's a partnership possibility among some of them. Okay, there's the utility, there's the PUC, there's the consumer advocate, there's the legislature, the chairs of the two energy committees. I mean, they're like executives, really, when you think about it. There's DBED and the Energy Office in DBED. There's the Department of Energy. I'm not sure where they went. They used to be here in some force. There's HCEI, the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative. There's actually a group out there. I'm not sure what they've done lately. I saw something recently, where somebody wondered if they still existed. There's HNEI from the university. This is good. They could have a real major role in developing the technology to go forward. The university in general, there's the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, of which we know. There's other trade associations, the Hawaii Solar Energy Association, the Hawaii Renewable Energy Association, and of course there's the activists, environmentalists, if you like, and I probably missed some. But I mean, there's a lot of guys playing in this, and I think a lot of the time they pull in different directions.
Well, that's what I said. There are a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
They've got, each one of them's got their own special dish, and the problem is that there's nobody really worried about
How it fits together, right?
how the meal is going to look. Somebody's cooking their potato dish, and that's all they're concentrating on.
Are you saying self-interest?
Well, it is, but it's a natural self-interest. That's what they know well. That's what they think will play well in this new competitive environment, and the trick is to try to get them all to play well together for the common good. And I know that sounds, a little
Pollyannish.
real, yeah, but that's what we've got to do.
That's what we got to do.
We've got no choice.
It may sound
because
Pollyanna, but that's
it's got to come together, and that's where I think this continuity thing that I spoke of earlier is so important, because we have started on a track. We're moving on that track. It's slow, it's cumbersome, it's aggravating to be involved in it, because you sit in meetings and you file testimony and you do all of this.
Our process has problems here. We're talking about technology that has to move quickly,
I
and our
understand.
process can't move quickly.
That's true.
We've got to
but-
fix the process, maybe.
Okay, but that's just it. You've got the PUC who does some of it, but they don't control all of it.
No.
You've got the legislature who does whatever they want to do, but they don't control all the pieces. You've got the governor and in the state energy office. They control certain parts of it, but not all of it. And at some point, you have to have somebody who can say, all right, we're going to have this over here, this over here, this over here,
Right.
and we're all going in this direction.
Right.
And there's nobody that really can do that very effectively now, because we've never had to have that before. Everything worked so well before.
It was momentum.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention liquid natural gas, by the way, as a player on our little stage here, especially in view of that possibility they can put in a processing plant in Pearl Harbor, which would actually be a really smart idea.
Right.
Under cover of the military, jurisdiction.
Well, I think 4 years ago, people assumed that we couldn't have as much renewable energy on the Oahu grid as we do. Scott Hsu was on this program a couple of weeks ago, and people on the mainland, from mainland utilities, telling it's not possible to do what they've done in terms of accommodating the solar. And just recently, they announced that they were going to open it up and probably be able to put more PV on some circuits.
Right.
But that's not because, I mean, I'm making a guess here. That's not because the circuit has remained the same and they didn't understand their own circuit. It's because the circuits are changing and they're putting black boxes on it. They're making smarter, you know, have you ever seen their peaking plant console out there in Kapolei? It's really high tech. I mean, they're putting some high tech equipment in. The more high tech equipment they put in, you know, the more of this non-firm power they can take. One of the interesting issues about the cable, which we shouldn't forget about in this conversation, is that the cable is more than just a cable. The cable has all kinds of equipment on both ends of it. And a lot of that equipment is effectively storage equipment and distribution equipment. It makes the smart grid much smarter. It is the, you know, a substantial part of the answer to the question, where is our smart grid? That would make a big difference. But I think all the time they're putting better technology on it. That's
and
why.
they didn't know what the old steam plants could do in terms of being responsive. When they first started to play with that, they said they didn't believe that they could ramp as fast as they can.
No, well, they never had to before.
Right.
Again, this is all new stuff that's being that we're asking the utility to manage and do what they can with their existing system.
Yeah, I mean, I understand their conservatism because the worst analysis for them is that they go down for an extended period. I mean, there'll be so much public
Outcry.
pitchfork
Yeah.
outcry that it will make now look like easy.
And the stability of the grid has always been the primary concern of people.
Sure.
I mean, it's their public responsibility to provide reliable power.
Yeah. So, but go back to my model. Suppose the utility says, okay, here's the plan. Here's our internal plan. We'll tell you what our plan is, and when we're forging ahead. We're going to do this, that, and the other thing, and we're going to find a way. Isn't that the leadership we're missing?
That would help, especially given the structure, given that the PUC has to respond to what the utility says they're going to do.
You know, sometimes you wonder if the PUC should have technical control over the utility that has, you know, the best technical knowledge.
That's a good point because again, historically, that's not been needed. But today it might be different. I mean, what you're really saying is maybe the structure that we've built everything around, a single monopoly that is granted a franchise to serve everybody, and there can be no competition. But they have to be regulated. They have to be under some watchful eye. That process is not working well whenever we've got people willy-nilly throwing PV on, and of course now they have to get permission to connect. But another problem that we've got right now is that the PV that's going on it's not clear what's going on with each of those PV units because all that's being measured from the utility point of view is what is either the net amount of power that's coming or going. And so you can't tell when you're looking at, if you were watching the meter every second, which they don't, they take it in at best right now 15-minute increments, the net of whether it's
Right.
being producing power and pushing it out the wires or taking power. But they don't know whether it's the sun is really bright now and it's pushing power out, or somebody's being very conservative in the house and turning everything off.
Right.
It all looks the same when you're looking at what we're measuring. And so 10% of our homes, I read recently, 10% of the homes here have PV, but nobody is measuring except maybe the homeowner themselves can put on extra metering to tell whether it's coming or going and tell you exactly what time of the day, they're actually producing the most power, as opposed to whether that's producing the most power or just doing well by turning off your air conditioner.
But that's the white hot spot. You're talking about the center of this whole conversation is the integration of that house and the circuit. And how do you do that? How do we do that? By having as much information as we could possibly have and having some kind of interpretation of that information, and then curtailment on a house-by-house basis in that given circuit. That's the problem we have to solve.
That needs to be done, and actually HECO is working on that here on Oahu, and I think you're going to see some trial runs of systems that will keep an eye on that. But we're a long ways from it, and it's not that part of the technology is not keeping up with everybody being able to walk down the street and talk to a PV salesman and have PV put on their roof. So it's being driven by competition, if you will, for who's going to produce the power that customer is using.
But soon enough, if technology goes away, I think not only local technology, but the technology that will be hung on the grid, cable technology and grid, capacitor type technology and battery technology, it'll happen. It'll have to happen. There's so much at stake. And what'll happen is that there'll be a box probably at your house that will tell how much you're using, how much you're trying to sell back to them, right? Not under, what do you call it, net metering. Wait, net energy metering is the way it'll be. What's the other one?
Feed-in tariff.
The feed-in tariff is like going away. I think you haven't heard much about that lately. It's net energy metering. That's the device. So what will happen is this box will turn on and off depending on how the circuit is doing, whether there's too much, whether you're generating too much. And you know what? It's okay, because it doesn't affect you that much. You still have your PV. The problem is you don't need as much of the PV as the guy sold you.
Well, the other
other
wild card in the deck is now they're selling these battery systems that are going to go on the solar. So you can be independent of the grid if you want to be. And
15 grand to start.
15 grand to start, but I know people that put 60 grand into PV on their roof. And they got the tax breaks and everything else, but it's people spending a lot
in
of money.
theory, if the utility can provide the offtake of whatever you're producing, and also pay you back whenever you're not producing 1-for-1, that's still a great deal. It's got some other problems with the other people who don't have PV,
Right.
And because their costs keep going up and up, because they're less
We really haven't addressed
kilowatt
that,
hours
have
being
we?
sold.
Nobody's come up with a model on how to deal with that. You have a smaller number of people
Yep.
who can't, do PV, and a larger number of people who do, and you shrink the rate base, I guess. You shrink the whole utility. How you gonna do that? Public buildings, large industrial buildings that can't have it. Who knows what?
And the battery storage is going to aggravate that, because there's going to be flight from the grid.
Yeah.
And that's just going to aggravate the whole problem.
Well,
Yeah.
sure, but again, we're just the first ones to be
Dealing
dealing
with
up
that.
on this, and it's hard for us because it hasn't
it's
been
hard
done
if you
before.
have to do it by consensus.
Well,
It's
that's
hard
true.
if you have to do it by,
I've used the
Tower of
analogy
Babel.
to an energy czar. If we could just have say a law that says we're going to have an energy czar who's going to make all these decisions. It'll be for a 5-year period, and then we'll get rid of the energy czar because he will have done his thing, and we'll go back to doing something that's more consensus based. But for now, we got this war on getting off of oil or fossil fuel, and we need to get things done.
So, I mean,
we have to
suggested-
make some decisions and execute them. It doesn't have to be the absolute best decision, because we'll never agree on the absolute best. It has to be a decision that is pretty sure to succeed, and reasonably priced amongst all the other things that we could be doing. But it's something we say, we're going to go do this, do it.
Right.
But we don't have, there's nobody with that power right now. There's
Right.
nobody that has czar-like power, because we don't like to give the czar-like power to people.
Or
So-
Energy Commission-like power.
Yeah.
Energy authority.
Energy authority, right. So, this is going to be interesting. That's that's why I'm still.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I like to, if we can, I like to flesh out exactly how we do. I think we're talking about the interconnect issue. There are other issues maybe reserved for later, but the one that's pressing us, giving us a headache right now is that one. And maybe a czar or a commission or an authority would be the one. And then, of course, the question is how you integrate that, if at all, with liquid natural gas. Well, let's take a short break, and we can,
It's your show.
regroup. Okay, well,
Go ahead.
It's our show. This is Think Tech Talks, Wednesday, Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. Taking stock of 2014. Who exactly is in charge? Mike Hamnett, co-chair of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum. Ray Starling, director of Hawaii Energy. And they're both co-chairs of this program. We'll be right back after this short break.
We want to thank our underwriters, Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric on Maui and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve. Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company. The High-Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency, attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism. Castle and Cook Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state. Hawaii Gas, formerly the Gas Company, a proponent of the Liquefied Natural Gas Initiative, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future. Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company empowering the real estate industry with greater and faster access to the tools and data they need to make better informed property investment decisions. I'm Nicole Horry. Thanks so much for joining us on Think Tech. I'm Maria Kashen. See you next time.
Okay, we're back. We're live. This is Think Tech Talks. I'm Jay Fidell. We're talking about the Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, taking stock of 2014 and asking who is in charge. We have the show Mike Hamnett, co-chair of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, Ray Starling, a member of the forum, and director of the Hawaii Energy Organization, which we hear from in our Negawatt Moment every week. We like that. And and both of them are co-hosts on this program. So I guess the question I would put to you is about liquid natural gas. Here we are addressing this like hotspot of what do you do with interconnect on the assumption that PV has a long way to run if we can just figure out how to accept all that. And including, PV farms maybe. If we can get it straight on accepting it and distributing it and having storage to back it up, I mean, that could be a great solution, take us a long way toward our goals. But at the same time, we have this possibility in the paper only a couple of days ago about liquid natural gas at Pearl Harbor with a facility there, much cheaper than fossil fuel, cheaper than renewables for that matter.
Currently,
it's true.
Currently
it
cheap.
could go up and down.
yes.
But assuming that it stays relatively cheap and assuming they find lots of it, we had a show on Russia yesterday, and Russia, not that we would like to buy it from Russia, but Russia has tons of natural gas. So does the U.S. Everybody's finding more as we speak. So let's assume that...
Part of the big problem here is that the cost of energy to most households continues to be very high.
Yeah,
And PV is going to help some people bring theirs down.
but not others.
It's going to push the cost to others up. So somehow we have to find a way to bring the cost of energy to households down, which might make it possible for more people to get PV actually.
Yeah, but if I give you
Yeah.
the family that can't afford,
Right.
to put PV in, we have these PV manufacturers, or rather installers coming from the mainland. They are doing better. If you've checked it, they are doing better than the local PV guys. Why? Because they have the financing arrangements. They've polished all that off. They know how to do it. So much so that we're going to be waiting a while before we can compete with on-bill financing. These guys who have these systems from the mainland who do financing of PV on the roof are better than we could do on on-bill financing. So the result is that even, Mike, even the guy who can't afford it can afford it. I mean, this is happening one way or the other.
I'm glad you brought that up because on-bill financing is coming. It's coming sooner than you think.
I'm still waiting.
Well, it's going to be here probably a soft start sometime around the end of March.
Okay.
And we're going to start small and work up. But on-bill is really designed. It doesn't really compete. It's not designed right now to compete with the solar installers, like you say, from the mainland who are coming, because the people that really can't get it are the people who don't have a good credit score. On-bill is designed right now to take the place of a credit score. And basically the particulars haven't been approved by the PUC, but they're talking about being able to finance for an individual if they have not had their power terminated in the last year, that being the qualifier, because most people pay their power bill, and that's the theory. But the guys from the mainland who've been doing the big solar projects that have been selling so well, as you say, they always look at the creditworthiness, and you have to meet a credit score.
To go to Mike's point, though, because we only have 3-4 minutes left. I think you were going to say that we need LNG or a cheap fuel of some kind. I mean,
to firm the power and make it cheaper
for the guys who can't get on, and there may be condominiums, who knows what. And so, as a bridge fuel, you know, if there was a czar, maybe he would say, okay, I declare that the next 10 years we're going to dedicate to LNG. We're going to do it at Pearl Harbor. We're going to have it. We're going to cost us 3 cents a kilowatt hour or whatever it costs, and everybody will be happy. And then after that, we'll take another look.
Yeah, there are doubters that the price will stay low.
You know, and the fear is that if we have low-cost fossil fuel, then we won't do PV as fast. We'll kind of lean towards the fossil fuel. But you know, we have to make a choice. We, as I said earlier, I think we will be burning some kind of fossil fuel for at least 10 years and maybe more. I hope that that's not the case.
Why do you say that? Make me the czar, okay?
Okay, because
and I will decide all these things.
You can put PV on every roof out there. It won't work at night.
I would get you storage. I would find a way to get. They're doing storage on Molokai. It's interesting how Molokai becomes the pioneer. Molokai, the ones who didn't want to have anything to do with wind, they become the pioneer.
Okay,
and there will be ways that we can do that.
Well, I think you're right, but when those ways will be available on a big commercial scale is still a question, and at a reasonable price. It's still a question. I mean, we see in our office people coming through. We got a new battery. It doesn't explode. It's it's fireproof, and it does all these neat things, and it's and it works. But show us one. You know that you've got to have some in the field tested and shown to be working. Until that. And then there's a ramp rate problem that I think Mike mentioned earlier. When you need it, you need to be able to ramp up. Some of the fossil generators are built to ramp pretty fast.
And the peaking ones even faster.
The peaking ones as well. Yeah.
So and so they're going to need some storage on the system, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see HECO try to jump in front of that line to put their own storage.
I would welcome that.
I would welcome it. It would be a great solution, wouldn't it? I don't want to pay $15,000 for my house. I want them to pay. You know,
their stockholders invest. That's kind of what they do now. But they've invested for 100 years in central power plants. But you could have generation on everybody's roof.
You could have storage at the substation level to take the peaks and valleys out
circuit by circuit.
Exactly.
And that's much more efficient than trying to put it in everybody's house.
That's true.
Right. That's efficiencies of scale.
Yeah, and that's where I'm hoping that HECO will get out in front of this problem, and that they start to put storage at the substation level to allow
I think
more
that
PV
would be
on.
fabulous.
Is that our conclusion today?
I think it's one.
In all fairness, we need on one of the subsequent shows to get the HECO guys in here to talk about why they can't do that. What are the things that are impeding them from being the guys from the mainland that puts PV on everybody's roof? Why not do that? And put the storage wherever they need it, basically.
Because it's got to be more cost effective than batteries in everybody's house.
Oh yeah,
Just
I
economies of scale. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're almost out of time. All I can say is that I think we found today that consensus actually doesn't work. Hawaii is a studied expert in consensus, and we have found what it's all about. It doesn't work. And it's time for a new model. It's time for a new relationship among all these parties somehow. It's time for somebody to be in charge. Anybody please be in charge. And maybe it's the utility, who knows?
Well, I mean, they've got to be in charge of a part of their own future, and it's in their self-interest to get out in front of some of these problems.
I would welcome that. I think a lot of people would welcome that, because especially if they were headed towards a clean energy future.
And they're out in front of the LNG thing. I mean, they're pushing ahead, and some people disagree. Some people say LNG is a fossil fuel. We shouldn't have anything to do with it, but it is right now cheaper, and I think it's worth looking at the option just to see.
Well, again, I agree with the people who don't want to see us get too hooked on just because it's a cheaper, cleaner fuel. It's not the renewable fuel that we really would like to be depending on.
If we get into it by consensus, we'll have a lot more trouble getting out of it by consensus.
Okay.
Because oxes will get gored.
Anyway, we're going to do this from time to time, you guys.
Yeah, sure.
This is a great discussion. It
Do we
punctuates.
drink beer before or after?
It's an intellectual thing. It's a mental beer. Mike Hamnett, to my left, co-chair of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum. Ray Starling, member of the Energy Policy Forum also, and director of Hawaii Energy. And I'm Jay Fidell. And every Wednesday we do Hawaii State of Clean Energy. Today we've talked about taking stock in 2014, looking at the big crossroads kinds of issues. Who's in charge? I've enjoyed this very much. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha.